Continuing on down here, of course, here are some great books that have recently come out. You're going to notice a number of baseball books as well that are very important pieces of my own personal reference library. You get down here to the bottom shelf on the one case, and this is the entire Time Life book series on the Civil War. Now, I know there's a lot of academic historians out there that scoff at the Time Life series, but these are absolutely just beautiful books. They were done back in the late 80s, I believe, maybe in the early 90s, written by a whole plethora of different historians, but the illustrations that are in these books, the photographs, a lot of the narratives, I will sit for hours and thumb through these wonderful Time Life books that are definitely a treasure trove of wonderful photographs and stories. I've even gone so far as to taking these books with me on some of my battlefield journeys. Wow, look at this. This is the Massaponax Church photograph. Now, you guys remember in episode 8, I believe, maybe it was episode 9, not sure, but we were at Massaponax Baptist Church, and these are photographs that were taken there of Grant's War Council. So that's kind of ironic that I happened to turn just there. Speaking of that, there's a book way up here. In fact, I just did a review of it on my blog. This is my favorite book of 2009 so far. It's J.D. Petrucci and Stephen Stanley's Gettysburg Guide. This book is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to bring it over here and flop it on the bed just so you can see. What J.D. has done is he has gone out and he has found a way to take a tired subject, which is touring Gettysburg, and come up with a completely fresh perspective with these wonderful photographs and maps that Mr. Stanley put together. This book is an absolute treasure trove of wonderful sites from the battlefield, some of them known, some of them overlooked and neglected, and I cannot wait to take this book out up to Adams County, Pennsylvania on my next trip and actually walk the battlefield with this. So thank you, J.D. and Stephen. This is an absolute godsend, this particular book. I'm going to go back over here again. You'll notice I got a lot of Mort Kunster's books. This is my personal favorite, The Confederate Spirit. And one of the nice things about being Mr. Kunster's personal copywriter, bragging, of course, is he signs everything. Everything that I own from Mort, he has been very gracious enough to sign, of course, and his paintings and work speak for itself. It is an absolute honor and a privilege to have not only the opportunity to work with this gentleman, but to know him on a personal level and be able to share the wonderful conversations that we have together. I look forward to working with him for a very long time. I believe Mort is up in his 70s, and he hasn't slowed down a bit. He is an absolute blessing. Once again, over here, talking about Eric Wittenberg's Plenty of Blame to Go Around. Definitely one of my favorite all-time books. And down here we have the follow-up, sort of the companion to One Continuous Fight. Also have a lot of the classic old books. This is Henderson's book on Stonewall Jackson. That is, it's a little bit difficult to read, but it is still nevertheless a wonderful piece of work. Coming down here, got, let's see, some Civil War books, some books, Terry Bradshaw's book, autographed. All these sports books, actually, are autographed. Of course, some Bible books. You'll find those throughout. Some of my Pittsburgh Steeler yearbook collection. Books on Monticello and historic books of Gettysburg. Coming up here, the Faith Writer Annuals. My work is featured in all of these. Let's see, up here, there's a number of DVDs and things of that nature. There's a book right here that I want to pull out. The Maxims of Robert E. Lee. This book was written by my friend Richard Williams, who also wrote Stonewall Jackson, the Black Man's Friend. And this is just an absolute blessing, this book right here. It talks about the sense of duty, sense of patriotism, a lot of the positive lessons that we can learn from Robert E. Lee and how those can be applied today in our daily lives. Going over here, of course, Jeff Shera's books are always a hit. Richard Croker, another gentleman I have the pleasure of knowing, who's written some wonderful novels. This here is my favorite book of all time. If anybody ever asks me what my favorite book is, this book is the life and Selected Writings of Thomas Jefferson. In this is his autobiography, a lot of his public and private letters, and this man has had probably a bigger impact on me than any other American. And this book, who better to write a book about Thomas Jefferson than Thomas Jefferson? So this book is definitely one of my favorites. Also the quotable Jefferson next to him. Let's see, scrolling down here. Very fortunate, I got a lot of books by Bruce Canton, a lot of books, American Heritage collection you guys are familiar with, Golden Book of the Civil War. Man, this is every boy's probably first introduction. I've seen a lot of our blogger buddies out there talking about this book being the first one that they remember having as a child. And one of the neat things about these books are these wonderful maps that they did that show the battle. This is Shiloh. And I'm going to zoom in on here, and you can see just the perspective. And as a young man, I would sit and I would stare at these for hours and hours, just trying to take in every single detail. It's very neat because some of these places, you know, I didn't know at the time that someday I would be living right by them. So when I get to chapters of this book that deal with Spotsylvania and Fredericksburg, you know, it's interesting because here's Spotsylvania right here, you know, and I live. Let's see here. Here's the salient and all this. I live down in this direction here, but I could probably be at any one of these locations from where I stand right now in about 10 minutes. So that's one of the really neat things about living in a place like the Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania area, and then going back and looking at it as a young man. You know, I'm sure I dreamed one day of visiting these places, and now I get to do it all the time. So that's another wonderful book. Let's see. We don't want to run out of tape before I show a couple more. Got a lot of books that were given to me by the churches whenever I was doing my research for the Fredericksburg's Historical Churches book, which, by the way, here's some signage down here the bookstores use here. That's interesting. Yeah, so it's kind of neat when you see your books there that are put up on advertisements and things like that. Let's see. Two Brothers, a wonderful novel written by Mr. Jones. He did an outstanding job, David Jones, of telling the story from Walt Whitman's point of view. Shades of Grey. This is a great book that is written by Jessica James. We both share the same publisher, and I believe this book has won more awards than any other woman's Civil War book, I think, since Margaret Mitchell's Gone with the Wind. So it is an absolute joy to have the opportunity to share a publisher with Jessica and to know Jessica personally. She's a wonderful person. Here in the back, here's hidden Jack Hurst's biography of Nathan Bedford Forrest. This is another one of my favorite books, probably second only to the Jefferson book. I've read it a couple times. Hurst does an outstanding job of presenting who's considered to be, you know, a hero to some and a terrorist to others. So Nathan Bedford Forrest, certainly a complicated subject. But Mr. Hurst did a wonderful job. And like I said, there's just a ton of books here, and I have a lot more that are in storage, that are in boxes and places, you know. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea of my own personal library and see that I don't just write books, I also read books. And as I said, I saw this on C-SPAN. I thought it was rather interesting. Now, I'm not Shelby Foote, but I do hope that you enjoy spending a little bit of time with me today, enjoying my libraries. And as the weather begins to cool, and the leaves begin to turn and fall comes, I promise to bring you some new Naked Historian episodes on site at Chancellorsville, Spotsylvania, and some of these other areas in the fall when they are truly beautiful. So until we see each other again, friends, thank you and God bless.